Yeah, welcome again. So we're there. Another Oshane Bryant corner. Money. This is more than likely a topic that not many people would like to discuss out there. Some people gonna feel like the discussion of money is supposed to be seen as taboo. Um, if you ever talk about going into business and you mention that you like to earn a profit or you like to make money in business, many people shy away from the topic of money. In the context of the culture that I associate what it is I'm speaking about or what it is that I'm pretty much going into, in Jamaica, I find that many people, when it comes to talking about setting up business geared towards not necessarily their own self uh, satisfaction in terms of making money, but in the context of building a thriving business uh, geared towards serving a community or satisfying a need, you can see where that is pretty much something that's lacking. Zane? So, in a way, well, I don't know. Let me try to get this sorted out. What's going on here? Let me get this off. Yeah. So, either way, the fact of the matter is, enough people want to talk about they want to make money. And at the end of the day, many people don't want to discuss money because the reality is money has a kind of a cultural connotation, which is to say that if it's a case that you're going to push the agenda in terms of your expression, your directive for money, then for many people they can be turned off because of the whole aspect of their viewpoints, especially coming from a religious point of view, and it can be highly suggestive. Another flip side that I notice as well is that many people talk about the whole reality or the desire to make money, and in so doing, they think about starting a business. And when it comes to them pursuing the desire of getting the business off the ground and running, I notice from what it is that I can share from my own experience that many people either do not know the routes to take or they are highly misled into certain kind of preconceived notions or beliefs that just because you say that you're self-employed or just because the fact you say that you're going into business that you will earn enough, and it is just like that. There are those things that are in place that pretty much just go fall in line. So social media is in place, so it means therefore that will fall in line. You're going to be making money. Having a website, you probably put that in place. So the conception or the belief is that you're gonna make money. You know what I mean? Or you're pretty much up with the latest trend. You're pretty much up with your certification. You're up with your training, whether it be from a bachelor's to a master's to a PhD, or even you talking about a professional certificate. And yet, in so doing, for many people, what they realize is that that is not really what it is that matters. If you're going to consider, having a strong business in place that is able to take care of it. Now, here's where I'm coming from, where certain things is concerned. I reside in Jamaica, and in my view, from what it is that I've seen, Jamaica does not have enough strong businesses. See, we have people who are desirous of starting a business. We have people who have the drive to have ownership. But I don't really see many people, one, having the knowledge about what it really takes for you to say, you know what, you're going to pursue a business venture, and this is the route you ought to take. One, two, that based on what it is that you're pursuing, this is more than likely going to be your reality. Two, and then three, in the context of you pursuing the venture for financial gain, that basically there's so many different levels towards the pursuit that you have to understand that it is more than just talking about pursuit of finances. Because at the end of the day, if there is not really a serious need for what it is that you have to offer in the marketplace, then at the end of the day, you don't really have a viable business. With that being said, this has led me to pretty much come out now and say, you know what? All right, as a man who has gone through building OB fitness from the ground up, literally, it is on me to present a degree of a platform for people to have some access to knowledge and know-how. Because the truth of the matter is this, people, we're living in a globalized world. See? And I'm not afraid to say this. We are in competition with the world of creators. You're in competition with the world of businesses. You understand? And if you don't understand how the dynamic of the economies are being affected based on narratives and or based on global positioning, then you would not understand also what are those factors in play that can either propel or stifle your business desires, a business attributes, a business goals, and even so to your financial pursuits. You understand? So I think that it is timely for me to come out and pretty much engage. So I have my agenda, and as I have it in the description, it is basically how can you start a fitness business today. And I'm speaking about fitness because obviously, first of all, if you guys know about OB fitness, yes, I'm in the fitness industry, albeit I have different backgrounds as well that contribute to it. I mean, that's for another time I can talk about that. But either way, I'm starting with fitness business, and I'm going to take it from that point of view based on many things that I observe in terms of the fitness business, not just in Jamaica, but also in America. You understand? And at the end of the day, why it is still relevant to Jamaica, I will be sharing that. See? Um, so yes, talking about that, having it in reference to the digital economy, Zane, because we talk about the fourth, uh, let's just say the fourth phase of industrial transition, and we're now at that stage where we talk about the digital economy. Everything is becoming digitized. You know what I mean? Owning a website and social media. It's important that we talk about that. You understand? Because the thing about it as well that I believe many of us in Jamaica are not fully grounded in is that in the context of you having financial freedom, it still revolves around ownership. Gym ownership or not. And I can tell you from my experience too that the people would have been of the view that, oh, you don't have a gym, it don't make no sense. You're not successful. You understand what I'm saying? Rubbish. You can tell that. So you have to know what business you're in, and you have to know your strong points, etc. So I'll be going into that. Personal branding. This is the stage that many of us, if we're talking about trying to get our business going, especially out of Jamaica, and again, I have to keep it in reference to Jamaica because the fact of the matter is, Jamaica as a country is a country predominated by consumers. And where our producers are concerned, our producers are not necessarily, I can say, connecting wholeheartedly with the consumers as they may be, both in Jamaica and even external Jamaica, to pretty much provide a degree of a platform for strong business. So I'm going to talk about that. And then whether or not by you listening to this live, yes or no, you have any questions, concern, then fine, we can talk about that. Now, here's basically what it is I need to also say in terms of what it is that I'm doing here. Primarily, first of all, I'm not thinking about any form of revenue from what it is I'm doing with this video, because I see this video that I'm making and the series of videos to come from this, Zane, as tools geared towards edification of others. Zane, if money make off it, fine, but that's not my primary. You understand? My primary is basically to sit using this platform, use it as a tool to get my voice out. Because I can say that, especially growing up and seeing many of the media controllers controlling media, yes, this is now a good time for pretty much me to actually come out now and to actually provide some degree of thought using this kind of a platform. So it is very good in that respect. So yes, like I said, it's not money really primarily. It's about content. So more businesses. We need more businesses. And to you as an individual, if you feel when you come across this video, that thing within your belly button that says to you that, know what Oshane is saying is resonating with me, then my urge to you is, among other things, one, You ensure that you learn as much about the industry that you would like to pursue. And know this matter about industry because you can't just think about, oh yes, starting a business and it's just your business alone. You have to think about, you have to think about competition. You have to think about who are the suppliers. You have to think about who are the buyers. You have to think about what are the regulatory systems or the framework that's in place that dictate how you should actually go about running your business, or basically how the industry should be run. Those are things that you have to make sure that you learn. You understand me? I say? Obviously, you then know how to think about you upskilling yourself. So I mean, again, it comes back down to yes, learning, but when it's upskilling yourself from a technical point of view, what technical skill sets do you need for that particular industry that you're going into? You know, that particular business venture. What are the skill sets you must have as a person who is, say, for example, creating the business? You know what I mean? And then no, we have to think about it in terms of your business. How are you going to structure your business so that your business can scale? Saying we have in Jamaica's context, I can say that I will listen to many of the radio channels and listen to many of the TV stations, and everybody say, "Oh yes, small businesses, small businesses, small businesses," and we say that yes, small businesses are the drivers of the economy as a major as a major source of foreign direct investment or foreign exchange, that kind of a thing. Whilst that is true, what it is that I also can say is that many of the businesses that exist, especially in Jamaica's context, are just highly focused and zoned in on the Jamaican market. That's one. Two, in terms of what it is that is required for them to continue to thrive in their business and to be able to take off on the next stage, many people pretty much become complacent. That's the other fact of the matter. If they have a certain market share, or say for example, them have certain kind of linkages, or them basically run a particular parish, whatever it may be, then they shut off there. And that is basically now where, in my view, and we can also talk about the reality of it, they are at higher risk of being shut down by external shocks and stresses. So, for the past couple of videos, well, I've been talking about Melissa, and we can't stop talking about Melissa. Look at what Melissa has done in terms of how much it has resulted in a total cessation of many small businesses out in the West. And even so, how much it has hampered on the profitability and the cash flow of businesses that don't necessarily just reside or focus on the western section of the country. You understand? We can hear about Nuts for the Express as an example that has experienced a degree of a reduction in its cash flow. You understand? They can talk about many other kind of businesses that have experienced this. And let's just say, for example, Nutsford in Jamaica's context is not a small business. You understand what I say? When I listen to farmers, how farmers have been impacted, and or we'll talk about the restaurants that have been impacted, the fact is around all of that is that these businesses, many of these businesses are just highly dependent on that specific geography, and their business structure is just highly cemented in a brick and mortar structure. In other words, they have to open up them shop at this location, and or basically they can only be in business if they are serving this particular man from this particular zone, and they have to be there all the time. So the entrepreneur, if you will, the person who created the business, has to always be up and running to run the business. And there is no form of plan or system in place to try and move the business into a stage whereby if there is a major setback, there are those products and services in a different manner that can assist the business in being able to keep afloat. There's not that much diversification. That and is a major example of what it is that dominates the the business sector in the country, in Jamaica, in my view. You understand? When I can hear, say, for example, the Small Business Association of Jamaica can cite the reality that many of the businesses out in the West have been halted because of the reality that, there are blocked roads, or we can talk about utility systems being down, etc. The fact of the matter is, if we were creating more as a collective, whereby everyone with their individual talent skill sets were not just thinking about serving their nearby community, but we're thinking about how, based on the product that they're providing, it can be able to project and to supply and serve needs that extends beyond that geography and systems are created in place to assist them in being able to do so, then by doing that, it pretty much means that the vulnerability is lessened. You see, in addition to that as well, if many of the people them that run businesses and people who have a desire to go in business understand that business in terms of building it and in terms of pretty much being able to scale it takes time, consistent effort. If you are not prepared to do that, stop talking about you want to go into business. That's what I want to say to you. It's a mindset first. You understand? And the truth of the matter is as well is that many people they love the flashiness of it all. So if they're not seeing you flaunt a particular lifestyle, if they're not seeing you flaunt and boast and pretty much display certain kind of things, then they will not necessarily believe that in essence you just the same are qualified to speak on a particular topic in the context of business. I am saying to everyone here who would tune into this video that you must know that when it comes to you creating your business has to be viewed as something that satisfies or provides a solution, and it is a big enough solution that can be provided, then you pretty much must make sure that you're consistently putting in the work geared towards creating the systems that will enable the business to serve people and to basically satisfy that need on a grand scale. Once you focus on doing that, and you pretty much also focus on ensuring that you are feeling fulfilled in doing so, then ultimately the snowballing effect will take place and the money will start to flow. But another thing too as well is that you cannot be thinking about the money to flow and you don't really understand the whole game of money. You don't understand the reality of money. Money depreciates with time. So at the end of the day, whilst it's a case that we talk about, oh, we want to make money, we want to make money, you have to keep in mind that it is very critical that everything is done with that time dependent manner in terms of how you invest and how you use. And basically, you have to also keep in mind that money is a tool. You understand? So money should be used in a way that you can pretty much actually be able to ascend to another level in terms of your own kind of desires and growth projections for yourself, for your family, for your business, for your community, for your country, etc. That's the kind of mindset that everything has to start from. So it doesn't matter which business you want to go into, you have to first of all have that mindset. Now, bringing it into the context of fitness businesses in Jamaica, I can speak about this, especially coming from my point of view as a person now who would have been running personal training on the UWI campus in the earlier days. You understand? Many people in Jamaica, not just in Jamaica, but also in the States, because the fact of the matter is we are exposed to the States media. If we're talking about getting a certification as a fitness professional in Jamaica, we're going to talk about getting certified from an American-based certification body. And or if we're going to talk about entering into the fitness space, we're going to talk about entering as a result of me becoming, say, for example, an athlete, a professional athlete, or a bodybuilder, or a physique athlete. And we work out into a gym and you basically develop that kind of a track record where people see you, people know you, and people say, yes, I want you work with me because I trust you based on what I've seen you done with yourself. I want to do other familiars around you. If you are pursuing a business in fitness in Jamaica, in the world, you have to understand again that the business basically has to still be viewed as a business. You understand? And it basically means then that you have to move it in a way whereby you set the structure in place that can enable the business to at least be able to take shape around you. You understand? Now that is very difficult to do. That is where now again you have to make sure that you have the technical skill sets of a fitness professional in the context of knowing what is what it takes for you to be able to be a fitness pro. So yes, you get a certification. After you have gotten that certification as an example, or even you get your exercise science degree as an example, then you have to think about it in the context of okay, what it is that is my service. Your service, to a degree, is dictated based on the kind of standards that are in place. So your certification will say that, okay, your scope of practice is X and not Y. So as say for example a personal trainer, you should you can prescribe exercise programs for people in the apparently healthy sector of the population, but you basically cannot necessarily move into prescribing rehabilitative programs because you have not gotten that kind of training and certification in physiotherapy or physical therapy as an example. You understand? So you understand then know that there are certain parameters that you have to follow. Good. Then you basically have to think about what is then going to be the business model you are set up. So are you going to think about opening a gym, or are you going to think about operating as an instructor, an aerobics instructor, or are you going to think about operating, say, for example, as a personal trainer? See, it can be a combination of those things. Uh, if you think about it all, at the end of the day, it still comes back down to the reality that it's going to take you, the individual, the time for you to basically have to devote into getting a client, building a client base, ensuring that you can earn profit enough that you can take care of yourself. And then after time as well, you basically can think about creating a model and a system in place whereby you don't have to always be doing the one training. The reality in the fitness industry, as a major example, is that the fitness industry is highly fragmented, as we say. So, in so doing, the barriers to entry in fitness is extremely low, so low to the point whereby you don't necessarily have to think about even going to school to learn nothing at all in fitness. You can have it be a case that once you again look the part, you basically can become a personal trainer. And hence the reason why, when you think about platforms, say for example, as social media does well for fitness pros or fitness fanatics who can come across and to say through their persona that, hey, yes, this is my workout, this is what I do, and based on me doing this can also do wonders for you. Subscribe, etc., etc., etc. And as so comes, then no business can start flow. You understand? Many fitness influencers, many fitness brands revolve around that kind of a structure, that kind of a system. What it is also that is a reality for many people in the fitness space is that for many of them, they do not just depend on training as their revenue base. Many of them basically will go into, say, for example, selling supplements. You understand what I mean? And or they can go into selling some other associated products, merch, or they become affiliate for certain companies like merch related companies, or can become affiliates for fitness related products, that kind of a thing. For this kind of a system, it basically is indicating that it revolves around a person. You understand what I mean? And essentially as well, that is the reason why I then know that when you think about a low barrier of entry and high competition, and then you think about the reality that you have many people that can pop up and operate as trainers, that's the reason why then you can see that there is a wide array of people who can say that yes, they are operating their own fitness business. And if you go on social media, yes, you will see like left, right, and center people basically popping up with their own gym space. And that does good in the context of for the consumers once it's a case that the people who are providing the service are qualified and capable of doing so. Because in so doing, it means therefore that a need is being satisfied nevertheless. You know what I mean? But for the people who are operating the businesses, for you who basically just have yourself waking up day in, day out to go to that gym to run your training session, and you stay at that gym, let's just say, for example, from 5 o'clock in the morning, go straight through till 6 o'clock in the evening, you take your break for your morning sessions, and then now when it comes to your evening sessions, you get yourself ready again and you run your sessions. When you do this for 5 years, you realize for yourself now that, boy, yes, this is really and truly not something that is sustainable. You realize for yourself that you need to basically think about other measures or other methods that can assist you in being able to take yourself away from having to put in so much sweat equity in the fitness business. You understand? And in so doing, that is where many people who are in the space will think about the diversification, as I've mentioned a while ago, the affiliates, selling of supplements, etc. But for many that exists in the Jamaican context, many of them don't have that luxury whereby they are capable of leveraging and expanding. And the reason, among the reasons for that, is because of the reality that many of the people who are in the fitness space in Jamaica, saying they don't really own those assets that can assist them in being able to scale, to leverage. And I'm keeping it real. Social media is a great tool in the context of opening the door for visibility. But if you really understand how the whole mechanism, the structure of social media is in the context of, basically how if you have been around social media at least 5 years now, you should realize that, let's just say, for example, Instagram and Facebook, they do not function the same way in terms of you being able to have your post be seen by the same number of people, 5 years ago relative to today. It's not the same thing. You understand? You're going to realize that your reach is much less. And you're going to realize also that in terms of the content that you are being hit with, the content is more than likely going to be such that it is revolving around suggested content or content that you more than likely will like, or you have more than likely interacted with. Now, with fitness, as I've said before, being so saturated, it basically means then that when you come out with a fitness content, see, let's just have an example, you come out with a chest workout. When you push out that chest workout on your own page, see, you have to know, understand that because of the fact that you probably have another 20 plus fitness pros nearby in Kingston who push out a similar post and who have also pushed out a post that day or the day before, your post in terms of reaching your target audience, let's just say who is nearby Kingston St. Andrew, is going to diminish. Worse if it's a case that you do not have organic pushing taking place, such as reposting or sharing as a major as key highlights. You understand? And when look at it from that point of view, it then means therefore that yes, you have to pay for ads. No, there is a misconception. I just want to touch on ads. There is a misconception that, boy, you know, paying for ads is bad. No, it's not. You understand? At the end of the day, you have to know again, we talk about money being a tool. Ads is a natural part of business. And the thing about it too is that, again, I said that for you to understand that social media is a business. You understand? It comes back down to viewership, it comes back down to retention rates, it comes back down to what the algorithm is being trained to do to keep people on the platform. Because as a freemium model, the platform depends on the mass to then have the root or the foundation to appeal to advertisers. Advertisers basically pay for the access to the market, the opportunity to push their message out. So when more creators are on the platform and there is that high competition between the content and where the content is being posted from, and who is basically getting traction, you then recognize, or you should begin to understand that your organic reach for your post as a fitness pro, it's gonna be flat. You understand? And that is something that I think many of the people in Jamaica who have a desire to run a fitness business, they need to understand that it doesn't matter if we talk, I mean, I can look across, the social media landscape too, and you see many people posting before and after photos, and you see people with their testimonials. So there's a social proof. You basically can see what the gym look like. You can see what kind of workout the girls are doing, and the reach is basically diminishing. You understand? Have to understand that with you not owning the social media, your reach is not going to have the capacity to consistently leapfrog. You understand? And this is where now I am saying that it is very significant that you have more of an ownership of your content. You understand? Now, I would like to mention this before I go any further. If you're in Jamaica and you are a person who creates content, you have to understand now that it is much harder for you to make money from social media relative to a content creator in America. Hence the reason why you see me I talk about this America-Jamaica context. You're supposed to see know where I'm going. See? Because if you do not understand that the structure of the laws that surround the America based creators compared to Jamaica, Jamaica's uh, structure is highly relaxed relative to America, a bigger market. I mean, America has a population of like what, over 300 million. Jamaica is like a population of, it's less than 3 million. You understand me? I say 100 times less. Now, when you have to think about it in that context, America basically have it to say that creators who have their content on social media platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, I'm gonna mention those three, they can earn organically from those platforms. See, it is there. In Jamaica now, and if you have tried this, you should be able to agree yes or no with what it is I'm about to say. If you're in Jamaica and you basically, let's just say, meet the minimum thresholds on Facebook, Facebook will say you need to have a minimum followers of 10,000. You understand? If you have 10,000 followers on Facebook and you, let's just say, for example, have an X amount of engagement, then on a monthly basis, you're more likely going to see if you're going to try and go into the business suite and you say, all right, boom, yes, hit monetization and try to get yourself monetized. More likely going to see it say that you have been denied based on your location. You understand? And it's a similar thing for IG because Instagram is owned by Facebook. See? So pretty much what I'm saying that to say is that you can have many fitness influencers show out of Jamaica and they are at the 20,000, 50,000 on Instagram or on Facebook, and they are not able to monetize their content relative to, say, for example, a similar content creator who resides in America because of the reality that Jamaica, in its location, does not have that kind of privilege as you will have in America. Now, if you didn't know that, it is important you understand that because basically where I'm going is that the algorithm again is shifting so much more towards the benefit of those creators who reside within those quote unquote first world countries, those countries who have a larger market relative to countries in the Caribbean or small island developing states. And what that basically then mean is that you cannot or you should not see you having all of these social media platforms and all of your combined following. That would have been like the major hype 5 years ago or so. You can't see that as being the major thing for you if you're in Jamaica as an example. So you must now understand that it is critical for you to pivot whereby you recognize that your content, your ownership of your content, and your following base, if it needs be as well, you need to make sure that you have ownership over it fully. You understand? In Jamaica's context, YouTube, yes, is one of those only social media platforms you can earn from once you become a member of the YouTube partner program. But another thing that you have to also keep in mind is that at the end of the day, what it is that you can earn from, say, for example, just the YouTube model or any social media model, it still comes back down to, the whole business model of you trying to generate views, etc., etc. If that it is that what it is that you're pushing your model to do, then make sure you learn it fully. But what I'm also moving into is to say that you should ensure that you are able to create evergreen content, evergreen content that at the end of the day does not die on a day-to-day basis. You understand? Content that people will consistently search for, content that basically will be highly relevant even a year from now, 10 years from now, whatever it may be. That is what it is that you're supposed to be doing. You understand? So if you're in the fitness space and you're creating your workouts, I would suggest that you stop from just pushing out all your workouts on social media just so. Because by doing that, you have to keep in mind that you have basically left yourself bare thin after you have already pushed out all of your knowledge in that context. You are not able to, really leverage it and use it to assist you with your business endeavors for future reference. Think down the road. So this is basically where having a website comes in. Now, the reality is that owning your own website, if you're thinking about building it from the ground up and having that full ownership of your website, that does take significant investment, especially in Jamaica's context. Yeah, look upon, let's just say minimum 500 US, depending on how big the website is. Having said that, if you do make the investment of having your own website, then that ownership is that system, that kind of a home, digital home that you can use to then leapfrog your business, not just for next year, but for 5, 10 years down the road. What it then comes down to is that you have the responsibility now to ensure that you can be able to consistently bring traffic to your website. And in so doing, you also understand the business dynamic of the website. What basically are the pages or the content that people will be interested in, and based on how you understand the dynamic of how sales run, you basically then move into the flow of knowing how to actually go forward and move people into taking necessary action. You understand? But at the end of the day, it still comes back down to you ensuring that, especially in the digital landscape today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you have your platforms that you own, because the platforms are changing rapid. See, I would have witnessed in TikTok, we were at a news um, a week or so ago, relative to when this video was recorded, seeing where it says that TikTok now is or should be fully transitioned to become owned by America. And in so doing, obviously the algorithm will be trained to pretty much revolve around whatever kind of policies or rules that American state will impose for the social media itself. Similar to that, if you also listen to what it is that's happening in other states, like in France or in Australia, you will see where the news says that those markets are working towards imposing bans on social media, especially as regards to viewers less than, I believe, 15 years or so. Those markets are doing so because of the reality that those markets themselves understand the value of their market, right? And I can say as well, from experience as well, that if you are thinking about starting your own fitness business and you say, all right, yes, I'm going to think about running ads. If the more you go in the game, the more you realize that different markets have different prices from a digital landscape point of view. You understand? And that is basically a dynamic you have to understand how to navigate. And when you know recognize the kind of value a market can provide, you would understand why it is that you hear me say that Jamaica needs to create more businesses. Because you see, when we do that, it then means that as a market that creates more, as a market that generates more wealth, as a market that basically has more wealth circulating within the marketplace, the foreign-based organizations, whether it be physical or it be basically digital, would then now see it fit to ensure that whatever kind of policies or laws that our government put in place, they would have to pretty much comply because they have a desire to penetrate the Jamaican market. That is what it is that is very significant. That is what it is that is important for you to understand. You understand? So you, as a person who has a desire to start a business, you have to understand that the onus is on you, yes, to ensure that you learn fully about what it is that you're doing. And the onus is also on you to ensure that you are fully grounded on your why. You understand? And similar to all that as well, the onus is on you to ensure that your business thrive, not just for you, but basically, yes, for the people you serve and also for the economy that revolves around your business. It's very, very important because your business is like that beacon that says to the business world or says to the industry that there is good opportunity here. You understand? That is very, 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 very important for you to understand. Um, Now, let me see. Without me even segmenting everything what I should have been talking about digital economy. I mean, everything I'm speaking about revolves around digital economy. Owning a website, social media, I've spoken about that. Gym ownership or not. All right, so let me just briefly mention this now. If you are, highly desirous of owning a gym, in Jamaica's context, that is, it's tough. Don't think about it. I'm just gonna keep it real. Don't think about it because again, the dynamic of or the reality of the digital economy having a significant pull on the choices, the actions um, of the market that you want to reach. Similar to that, the reality that the market in Jamaica is not one that is exposed to a high disposable income. In addition to that, the market that more than likely would be a target market, they are highly stretched with a lot of obligations. So you will notice then know that many of them have to be working different times, they have to be working late. They basically have to pick up their family here and there. And in addition to all that too as well, they have many things that they have to be considering going back to school, doing this, trying to basically upskill, trying to basically do what it is that's necessary to position themselves to make the money. And in so doing, it means therefore that they can have a lot of migration in between the parishes. You basically can have the reality that many of people who would want to go to a gym cannot really make it a consistent thing because of the reality that they have too many things that they have to contend with. Then, in so doing, it means therefore that your capacity to fully scale from your gym model is highly limited. That's why you would notice, if you do notice, that in especially in Jamaica's context, you will see many gyms and not just the one gym. In other words, the gyms have not become franchises. The only franchise that you can identify is the one that begin with E. We're not getting a free publicity. So if you are aware, that is the only gym that can basically be considered as a franchise. And that is the only one that I can say, yes, they have done this. But because of the fact that they too have done that, it means therefore that that already is the major competition when you consider it in the Jamaican landscape from just a gym model point of view. You also have to take into consideration real estate prices are highly volatile. That's just the truth of the matter. Anybody says otherwise, they are lying. Because what it is that you have to take into consideration, and especially myself as a German can say it, with the reality that Hurricane Melissa has pushed into our faces, it means therefore that when you think about general insurance or when you think about risk for floodings or for other extreme events, they are higher. You understand? And then if you're going to think of the consideration as well that we talk about the earthquake risk as well, then it means therefore that you're facing many, like we can say, geo-based factors that can hamper your gym from being able to be sustainable. You understand? So when you're gonna think about it within that context, you have too much dealing with. Utilities going up. Bridging, keep in mind that if you're talking about owning a gym, you have a fixed location, you have fixed expenses that more than likely can appreciate year by year. Many people who are going to talk about trying to own a gym, they do not own the gym location. They may own the brand, but the real estate underneath the foot you don't own. So if you do not own it, if you have leased it, or if you rent it, you're more likely going to have to take into consideration that the expense can increase, it can appreciate, yet still your membership does not have to go up year on year. So Why not eliminate that risk? Why not basically see your business in a way where you say to yourself, you know what, let me not put too much additional stress on myself in having to have a fixed location, and let me try to ensure that I create a model that is more so mobile, that is more so affixed to my reality. It is very important to do this. And I'm going to make a clip out of this. Yes, it's very important. Don't get don't get trapped in the farce. People have this farce to say that, oh yes, if you don't have a gym, you're not successful. Rubbish. I am somebody who basically can say that not go so. It may take you time, but take the time, study the game, and if you're good at what you do and you are not full of crap as a person, people will come, they will come. And if you can be able to do what it is that you need to do from a business point of view, they will stay for a good time. You understand what I say? So spend the time and do what you need to do. Do not be afraid of being digital, but you have to make sure that you understand the business dynamic of being digital. See? And whilst it's a case that I would like to share a lot of more deeper things, I'm keeping it real. I'm not going to share everything as it is right about now, just like that, because at the very minimum, my 10 plus years of being an entrepreneur who have started OB Fitness when I'm growing, like when we can say no, them little thing you push. If I say, oh, you're done a unk in the game. And I say that with pride because I have seen many people try to start businesses before me, since me, and they have stopped. Many reasons. You understand? And for me, I take those things personal because I know what OB fitness means to me. You understand? Before there was anybody else, there was OB fitness. Make sure that's sinking. So with that being said and done, that's the reason why I go hard. I don't stop. My work ethic is one of my major assets. I can tell you that straight. You cannot outwork me. Then another thing that's a major asset of mine is that I will always go outside of the box in my thinking. You can't do that past better than me. You understand? And that is what I'm willing to share. If you talk about starting a business, you have to be ready, willing to put in the work. You have to be able to say, yo, if I even treat people that on your life, you'll be alive. Because I don't care about having hundreds because it only takes one. It was me one. You understand? And with it just being the me one at the time, OB Fitness has blossomed to hundreds of people benefiting year on year. Where it reached to the point now where I have headache in talking about how am I going to be able to make OB Fitness scale up and not necessarily drop in its kind of value to the people that it serve. Notice me say it because before I used to speak about Oshane Bryant Fitness. You understand? And hence the reason why the rebranding would have taken over, where it has become OB Fitness, because it is much bigger than Oshane Bryant. OB Fitness is a vehicle geared towards empowering its community, towards leading in a sustainably healthy lifestyle way. You understand? That is the vehicle. The people in OB Fitness is what make OB Fitness great. I look forward to being a part of that day on day out. You understand? And I think I too have a responsibility to ensure that I'm at my best because just as how the community look to me for, let's just say, empowerment, the drive to keep them going, just the same, them empower me. When I listen to some of them and when I see some of them in terms of how they go forward with their lives and how they push themselves, it is more than just about fitness, it's about life. It's about basically how much they are working towards trying to still navigate the turbulence of life. And the thing that you must take into consideration, or what may I try to drive into your brain, is that the business is not just about a customer. The business is about a community. When you can make sure you focus on having a community of people, who champion what it is that you're pushing in terms of the business that you're trying to grow, then the business can continue to have legs. That's a snowball effect, but it doesn't happen overnight because you have to be the vehicle first that the people look on and they say that, okay, yes, I can trust you. Because at the end of the day, that is how sales work. Don't think that it's all just about a numbers game. You will hear them mention the statistics. Yes, you will hear them talk about it being a numbers game. It is more than just that. You also have to talk about what are the other holy grail factors that will keep people coming back. What is it? Yes, you can talk about, okay, yes, you're productizing the product, or you can talk about you taking your time and you basically just do this one thing today and you're doing another thing tomorrow and keep it in stages. But at the end of the day, if you do not have people who would always say, you know what, yeah man, this is more than just making me feel like a number, and or this is more than just, say, for example, me just having to have a one-time experience, then until you have that, you don't have a business. Then you are going to have to find that. So, what it is that I can say from what it is that I've seen, and obviously, yes, social media, digital media is pushing it, is that personal brands do matter, right? Um, it doesn't matter how big an entity wants to become in life. It doesn't matter how big you want your entity to be in life. If the entity doesn't have personal brands as the magnet, then essentially that entity will not be able to fully thrive. Because if you think about marketing, talk about influencer marketing, as a major example. Or if you're going to talk about, what is this? John Jonah, how do you get through to those who are comfortable and are afraid of change? All right, give me 1 minute. I soon address that. Where was my thought process a while ago? Yes. So influencer marketing as a major example. Think about it. Influencer marketing can even attribute itself to pretty much those sports magnets, those fashion magnets. When you think about fashion, you think about that model. When you think about, let's just say, for example, the top sporting brands, you're gonna think about the sporting icons. You understand? Major icons, maybe as an example, LeBron James. I talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. When you think about those adverts grab people through those magnets. So hence the reason why those companies will push a lot of their money into sponsorship deals consistently, no matter what. Always trying to find the next big thing, because at the end of the day, the next big thing is going to be the magnet, and they just revolve their branding, their entity, the name of their entity, what it is that their entity has to sell to the market. They revolve it around that magnet. You understand? So, personal branding is very, very significant. It is very important that if you talk about trying to move yourself into business, fitness in this context, since we are talking about it, but it doesn't matter which business you are talking about. Make sure that you understand that having a personal brand does still matter. So don't just think that, okay, yes, you're just creating a product, a skincare product, or whatever kind of product it may be, and the product is where it is at. You understand? People still want to see who are the people behind the product. And if the people behind the product, that is not their forte, then people still want to see a magnet that they can identify with where the product is concerned. All right. So, John Jonah, so how do you get through to those who are comfortable and afraid of change? So I just want to ensure that I understand what you're asking, Jonah. Is it a case that your question is directed specific to, let's just say, trying to change people with in terms of their mindset to start the business? Are you talking about trying to change the market in terms of trying to get through to people in terms of the market that is, um, if the market is comfortable? Is it the market you're making reference to, or you're making reference to the people who we should be talking about in the context of the business drivers, are people who we should be trying to push hard for make it in life? Just confirm if that is the case, so that I can know fully to answer the question. But yeah, you know um I think I have said all I needed to say in this context for the fitness related business. As I've said it already, but I'm not going to sum it up. If you're thinking about starting a gym in Jamaica, don't start it. So the person is saying the market, getting some vendors online on platform, getting some vendors on online platforms. All right. So first of all, put it like this now. Jonah, if we're gonna talk about the vendors, what you can do first of all is that the vendors basically can consider, you know, looking at a video like this. The regular hire downtown is good where they are. Some aren't looking to go online. Yeah, that's true. And you see, that's the mindset. So how do we get them? Well, first of all, we can share content such as this because I sure know I'm not the only person pushing out this kind of a content. That's one. Two, the same people themselves, they need to basically be open to change because the questions you're asking is cemented to a degree in terms of what are their inherent beliefs, how they are cultured. You understand me? I say, and as well to their reality. Their reality more than likely will suggest that it is hard for them to try to go digital concerning when it comes to the reality that you know digital for them is going to take time, as I've said, and they need to be able to make ends meet week in, week out to send their kids to school or to basically take care of household related finances, that kind of a thing. I think that is a major factor that has to be considered. Now, with that being said, if you, the vendor, have the desire, then what it is that has to be taken into consideration is that a plan should be constructed. You understand? You, the vendor, would have to construct, as an example, a budgetary plan. You understand? As a budgetary plan, you think about it in this context that you have a desire, let's just say, to venture into another space. You have a desire to invest because that's what it is. Invest into taking a risk. You understand? And based on this investment, you may set a target to say, you know what, I'm going to build up, let's just say, for example, 300 US over a period of 6 months. And this 300 US will be geared towards me venturing into creating a marketing campaign. But before I get into that, I have to ensure that I understand digital marketing. So I go on Google search and I type in how to do digital marketing, how to digitally market fresh produce, how to basically digitally reach and supply the market in multiple different locations. You start to do your research. I mean, the same social media will pop up in the search, YouTube as an example, and you'll see the videos pop up. Use the videos because we're in the information age. So in me answering, the information is there. It comes back down to how much we do have the desire. And if we do have the desire, then we should ensure that we have a plan in place. And based on the plan that we put in place, budgetary wise, etc., we make sure that we fully understand the risk is there, that is a real risk. We don't try to water down the risk. You understand? We basically understand that if we're going to push our money into trying to go online, and we talk about trying to establish, let's just say, a social media presence for you to be able to sell your produce and you start up a Facebook page, then you have to take into consideration that the risk of you running your ads and not necessarily seeing profit is high. So you have to make sure that you fully understand that is what it is, that is your reality. Once you do that, then that at the very least that will help you to make that transition. But the reality too is that yes, change is going to be scary. So take the change as it will come, and be fully cognizant that for you to take that leap of faith, you're going to need to take a degree of financial risk. But once you have done all the necessary work and you also have done all the necessary internal checking that it is right within your spirit, if you go feet, eventually you will reach there. That is my thought process on that. So yeah, I hope I've answered that question in that respect. Right. So again, getting myself ready to shut out, just to say this again, that you know, if you're in Jamaica and you are talking about starting a fitness business, don't think about owning a gym. Yeah, man, no problem, Jonah, no problem. Don't think about owning a gym. Think about being mobile. If it's a case that you're thinking about starting up a fitness business in Jamaica, understand that, you know, being the next big thing on social media is going to be increasingly difficult with the passage of time. You do not have the kind of privileges that a fellow competitor in the United States have, because of the reality that the kind of laws and systems that are in place in the States support those creators being able to monetize their content across major social media platforms much more than, say, for example, you in Jamaica. Otherwise, from YouTube, as the prime example, you cannot really be identifying other major drivers of income. TikTok is one of them, but TikTok, if you understand the dynamic of TikTok, is still relatively new, and with the changes coming in place as well, you know, as a result of the American ownership, you have to take into consideration that there may be other changes in place that will come as well for monetization, for those creators who are out of Jamaica, who are coming from Jamaica. So, saying that to say, owning your content matters, and doing so via a website, whether it be you're starting a website from the ground with having a 500 minimum US investment as an example, or you thinking about using third party platforms such as Shopify, um, as an example, you know, then do that, because at least in Jamaica, I do see where many fitness related brands, they do have their Shopify related website as well. So that is something that you should be doing, yes. And when you think about the fitness business, don't just think about the business in the context of, you just making the money. Think about the business in a way that the business basically satisfying a need, right? And the business is able to create a community of people who really champion what it is that you're pushing, right? Once you do that, then essentially you can be able to have a sustainable business that at the very minimum can take care of you and your household. But essentially, what you should also be thinking about is ensuring that your business is not just satisfying the market that is around you, immediately around you. So, in other words, not just the people who are within your parish and not just the people who are within Jamaica. I want to put it like that. Your business should be able to satisfy people multinationally, because the fact of the matter is, as an aging population, global population, people want to live longer, and or people are living longer because of healthcare, etc. What matters is the quality of life. And once people are able to live a higher quality of life, especially as we transition from, our productive years into retirement, then that also becomes a major market. So when you think about in that context as well, people in that market is not just in Jamaica, it's not just within that 2.8 million. And keep in mind that the 2.8 million of Jamaica, not all of them is within the productive sector. You know what I mean? So when you take into consideration all those factors alone, you want to keep yourself open to a market that is not confined to a specific geography. When you can do this, then at the very minimum, you have sustainability. You have the capacity to scale. You understand? So yeah, just keeping it real. That's what you need to be doing. Saying if you're not doing that, you're not really serious, right? And once you enter into that stage, then obviously it takes you to another dimension. But that's for another time, right? So yeah, I've said everything I needed to say for this one. I think next week I will touch a bit on um, I think dietetics. Probably we'll touch a look a bit into that, or the nutrition space. We'll touch a bit into that, because I intend to really talk about many different industries that we should be thinking about coming from Jamaica and trying to project it to the world. And even though I'm coming from Jamaica, if it's a case that you too are from another country, and this that I'm saying has resemblance to your reality, let's just say in the Caribbean or other areas across the world, then by all means, let it apply to you. You know what I mean? So yes, I intend to speak on other topics, and I like what it is that is happening here. Oshane Bryant Corner. So yeah, big up yourself. Until next time, take care.